Hey guys, we're going to read Susan B. Anthony, A Fighter for Women's Rights. And this is by Becky Ward and illustrated by Andrew Wheatcroft. Susan B. Anthony was a fighter, but she didn't fight with her fists. She used her words and actions to fight for justice. All her life she struggled to make sure that laws were fair for all citizens. Susan lived over 100 years ago. At that time, most people believed girls did not need much education, but Susan's parents did not agree. They felt strongly that girls should be educated just as boys were. They sent Susan and their other daughters to good schools. Susan was an excellent student. She became a teacher when she was only 16 years old. We also read that Laura Ingalls Wilder became a teacher when she was 15. Susan was not afraid to speak up at school meetings. That's the illustration there. As a teacher, Susan noticed times when women were treated unfairly. For example, female teachers received less than half as much as pay as male teachers. Also, at teachers' meetings, women were expected to sit silently at the back of the room while the men made the decisions. Susan stood up at school meetings and argued that women had a right to take part in the meetings and to receive equal pay. In the 1850s, some African Americans were enslaved. They had to work without pay and were cruelly treated. Susan felt she had a responsibility to fight for the rights of enslaved African Americans. She gave speeches against slavery. Sometimes people who didn't agree with her ideas threatened her and called her names, but Susan never backed down. The caption on this picture says that Susan gave many speeches against slavery. In the 1860s, Americans fought the Civil War. The Civil War ended slavery, but only white men could vote. Susan believed that African Americans and women deserved the right to vote too. She tried to convince people that the Constitution should be changed to give all adults the right to vote. The caption here says that Susan tried to vote and was arrested. When a new voting law was finally passed, it stated that African American men could vote. Women still could not vote. When Susan went to the polls and voted anyway, she was arrested for breaking the law. Instead of giving up, Susan spent the rest of her life marching in protests, writing letters, and giving speeches to win equal rights for women. In 1920, women finally won the right to vote. That was 14 years after Susan B. Anthony's death. Though Susan was not alive to see her dream come true, people remembered and honored her. The new law was called the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. Let's think about what we read. What rights did Susan B. Anthony want for women? Why was Susan B. Anthony arrested? What actions show that Susan B. Anthony had courage? I will see you next time. Bye.